Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to Le Castellet here in Paul Ricard Circuit. We are in the south of France for round 5 of our Ferrari Challenge Coppa and 488 drivers who will be taken to this track in this really rather beautiful part of Europe. Look at this. Sun has beaten down all days that we've been here. The temperature has been absolutely glorious. And it is the second half of our 2024 season, having been to Mugello, to Balaton, to Jerez, to Portimao. Here we are in Le Castellet with the Nürburgring to come at the beginning of September, which won't be quite as warm as here, I am sure. Then it's Imola at the mid-October for the final round of our 2024 calendar. What an eclectic calendar it has been. A brilliant calendar. Thoroughly enjoyed all the racing that's been on offer. And this track is a real test for our drivers. It is the Circuit Paul Ricard, which contains 15 turns, 6 of them left, 9 of them right-handers over its 5.842 kilometer length. Built in 1969, it hosted its first race in 1970. It is around about 50 kilometers from Marseille. Look at the track temperature, 52 degrees. The air temperature is 32 degrees. Thankfully, the wind has increased just a little bit. It's up to 9 kilometers per hour, just to take the edge off that heat. However, it will affect none of our drivers in those cars, that's for sure. And there you can see them lined up on the grid. We have 2 categories racing in one race here. We have our Ferrari Challenge Coppa drivers driving the 296 cars with the yellow strips across the top of the windscreen. And then we have our 488 Challenge drivers who drive with the blue strip across the top of the windscreen. And there's a lot of both categories as we look at the Willem van der Vorm car to the left-hand side of our grid as we make our way down through the very busy grid for this race. There's some 29 cars in total on the grid. Such is the success of this wonderful one-make series of the Ferrari Challenge. We get to the sharp end of the grid right now. To your right-hand side is the Manu Gosner car. To the left-hand side is the Henri Acide car, who is going from pole position. Of course, we will be bringing you the grid in full. A little bit of camera art there as we get the reflection from some sunglasses, and we need some reflection from those shirts, I would suggest, which are very loud and proud, that's for sure. The Castellet Racing team, of course, looking after Henri Acide, who goes from pole position, and alongside me is Nico Spalek, and well, the scene is set for what is going to be an awesome race, and of course, in terms of 488 Challenge drivers, potentially a champion to be crowned.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. As we take a look at the grid and all the cars represented, you said it, in the 488 Challenge, Fabrizio Fontana has the magnificent opportunity to take the championship with 2 full rounds to spare. That's 4 races to spare. However, he has been beaten in qualifying for the first time this season, so he made it to 9 consecutive poles. Number 10 eluded him, but he would certainly be quite satisfied if we could make up for that marginal blemish by taking very early the race and the championship title.
We will keep you across that during the course of our program this afternoon, of course, and it is very likely, honestly, that Fabrizio will seal that 488 championship in this race today. We will see. There is the Willem van der Vorm car, and the number 182 296, which is prepared by Scuderia Monte Carlo. There's Thomas Gosner in the 161 car. Thomas Gosner always worthy of propelling himself up the order. Then we see the 107 car of Ray Acosta. Ray Acosta, who drives for the Collection and Ferrari of Miami. Yes, you heard me correctly. Miami-like shirts there, you can see, but they're more associated with the Maranello Motors driver, Michael Martin. There you can see the 226 car of Joachim Olander, who is the very person that beat Fabrizio Fontana to pole position. Fabrizio has had it pretty much all his own way in terms of qualifying across the 488 Challenge season this year, but he was bested by Joachim Olander today, Nico.
Yes, absolutely. Joachim Olander, a long-time campaigner in the Ferrari Challenge, hasn't taken part on a regular basis this year, but has returned and has returned with quite a lot of speed, both across yesterday, was unlucky in the race, but has returned with even more determination in qualifying and taken pole position. You can see the blue strip across the windscreen for the 488 Challenge drivers, and they line up behind the Coppa Shell drivers, so we basically have 2 races in one, so you get double value.
Absolutely. It's all about value when it comes to this wonderful one-make series of the Ferrari Challenge. And you can just see the Fabrizio Fontana car, the green and white car, behind the Alexander Nussbaumer car. Now, I want to mention Alexander Nussbaumer because he wasn't able to set a lap in qualifying. Therefore, he's starting from the very back of our Coppa Shell drivers. And bear in mind, Alexander Nussbaumer is a driver that can really overtake, and he will be going for that, that's for sure. Omri Assid is on pole position. There you can see his just cool cloth across his face ahead of the start of the race, because it's going to be really hot in those cars. There's no question about that. Omri Assid then with pole position goes from P1. So many drivers in the Ferrari Challenge, and round by round, we've seen new drivers join us to contest this fantastic one-make series. And this weekend has been no exception to that particular rule, as we welcome from the Maranello Motors organization, Mikael Martin, who's made his debut in the Ferrari Challenge with the 109 car, and we met him earlier on this weekend.
It's 1995, I start racing. And I stopped racing at all in 2003, and I come back now here with my first season, and I have to learn a lot of, because it's a very competitive racing series with very fast drivers. I'm Ferraristi till I'm 20, so it was for me the target, at least, to get a Ferrari race driver. That is for sure for everyone who is in this with this passion. Is this the highest level you can get? At the moment I think I'm the last in my class, so I will see that I can find more or less 1.5 seconds faster.
Big thumbs up then, as great to see Mikael join our grid. And there is Fabrizio Fontana then, a driver of the 488 Challenge car, engineered by Formula Racing. He's coached by Stefano Guy, and he has done a fantastic job this season and could seal the 488 Challenge Championship this afternoon. I think the long and the short of it is, mathematically, he just has to finish ahead of Tommy Lindroth. That's pretty much how it is in terms of the championship standing. So Coppa Shell and 488 Challenge race start in exactly 1 minute from now, as you can see. So all non-essential personnel have left the grid right now. As always, it is a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge. The safety car will lead the cars away for a lap. Then it will be the responsibility of Henri Assid and Manuel Lagosna on the front row of the pack to control the rolling start. We'll bring you the grid in full once the cars are off on their formation lap, Nico.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go. As you can see from the top of the windscreen, 32.3 degrees, and that's going to be quite a challenge for all our drivers. Obviously, for the tires, it's going to be tough under these conditions. The driver have to manage, so it is not only a sprint race, but it's also a race of attrition to a degree.
You're absolutely right. And with 29 cars on the grid, this is going to be absolutely awesome this afternoon. Hold on to your hats, everybody. We're ready to go racing. So the safety car will lead the cars away as the green flag is waved right now. It lights up, and there you can see the cars are leaving the grid as well. We'll bring you the grid in full, as I promised, from back to front. We have both 488 Challenge cars and the Coppa Shell cars as well in this fantastic double race in one with 29 cars on the grid. So, as they all head down towards turn number one for the first time of asking, we ride on board with our pole sitter, Henri Acide. So, from back to front, Gerardo Marino goes from P29 on the grid. P28 is with Quinn Wittlersbach. Hasn't even got driving license yet. Alongside him is Nils Sebranson, then it's Pino Frascaro and Martin Havas. P26 and 25. 24 and 23 belong to Tommy Lindroth and Sven Schomer. Then it's Alexei Komarov and Roger Tornbaum who go from P22 and P21. Occupying row 10, Ivan David Mari and Maurizio Pittori. Great to see Maurizio back racing again. Gabriele Bini and Faisal Shayer go from P18 and P17. And then it is Fabrizio Fontana and Joachim Olander. They complete our 488 drivers, and they are behind Alexander Nussbaumer and Michael Martin. They're on row 7 of the grid. P12 for Pierluigi Alessandri. Ray Acosta is alongside for P11. P10 is with Motohiko Isazaki, last year's Coppa Shell Am champion. Thomas Gosler goes from P9. From P8, it's von Skeltermar. He has Willem van der Vorm alongside him at P7. On row 3 of the pack, it's Christoph Herney and Ernst Kirschmeier. And to the second row of the grid, John Dillon and Tibor Valin go from P4 and P3. And then the first row of our Coppa Shell grid belong to Manuela Gosner going from P2. And Henri Acide goes from P1. And let's hear from our pole-sitting driver, Henri Acide, right now.
Hi everybody. Thank you for this very nice day. Pole position again. And I hope win again in few hours. Nice Provence, nice France. I hope La Marseillaise again. Thank you. Nice Provence.
He'd got his reverb button turned up to the max, hadn't he? So good, we want to hear him twice. Henri Acide, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. He took it all the way up to 11 in qualifying, and he took that P1 position. He's been chasing Manuela Gosner for the majority of the season. Now it's the other way around. Manuela Gosner on Henri Acide's home track. She has to do the chasing, and it's a tough ask to overtake him here, and she also has to feel the pressure from Tibor Valent and John Dillon coming up from behind. So it's going to be an interesting one, especially through the first few turns.
I think you're absolutely right. You've nailed that correctly. You can see Henri Acide is weaving from side to side. That's because he needs to generate temperature early on into those Pirelli tyres. And he'll be using the brakes as well, because the heat dissipating from the brakes through the rims and onto the tyres, and that hopefully will give him something of a little bit of temperature build into the tyres. It will take about a lap once we get to racing for the tyres to come up to optimum temperature. But of course, if he can give himself even a little advantage in terms of that temperature in the tyres, then it's wise to do that. You can see the cars heading into the chicane now. They're invited to grid up in traditional side-by-side formation. The Richard Mills safety car will peel off into the pit lane at the conclusion of the lap. Then, as I mentioned, it will be the responsibility of the front two, Henri Acide and Manuela Gosner, to control the pace of the rolling start. Now, very unusually, Fabrizio Fontana finds himself starting from P2. I say very unusually. I can't think of another example of when that has happened.
Sorry, Dave, for interrupting. I think John Dillon is missing from the grid. As you can see, there is only
right.
Tibor Valent on P3, so we didn't quite see what happened there, but John Dillon certainly not in his starting position.
Well picked up on. Yes, John Dillon is missing. Don't actually recall, and we're going to get an extra formation lap, and I really rather think that might be because John has fallen awry somewhere around the track. So, extra formation lap then. And their confirmation from the race control. The safety car will stay out, and we will do an extra formation lap. And there is the John Dillon car.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought I'd missed that he wasn't on the grid, but I thought I'd seen him there, and then all of a sudden he was gone. So that's obviously tough luck for John.
It is tough luck, and you know, bear in mind, he comes here, Nico. He had a tough race yesterday, but going to Portimao, he'd done so well and taken his first win. And I have to be honest, it was richly deserved, and well, his luck has turned for the worst. Now, the clock is counting down. The race has effectively started, even though we've got an extra formation lap, Nico. We've got a tight schedule of racing to bring you across the course of this afternoon. So the clock has started. The race is effectively running. Of course, there's no overtaking when you are behind the safety car, and that is the position right now.
Yeah, and obviously that's bad news for everybody who wants to make up positions. Alexander Nussbaumer comes to mind because he wants to move up the order. Now, he was gifted a position, namely that of John Dillon, but other than that, if he wants to get on terms with the top runners, every second counts, and that means his time is reduced. I will have to check the technical regulations or the sporting regulations. I think it'll be a single file start now, but that is something that we need to verify. However it is, at the end of this lap, we hope that we will go racing. As you can see, it is a safety car. It's indicated as a safety car, so that would lend some credence to the fact that we'll be single file, but we'll check it out for you.
I think you're absolutely right. So, and you will have noted that the safety car has really increased its pace as well, as it allows the drivers to begin to build some temperature, and they will be racing, of course, once the safety car peels off into the pit lane. So it is Henri Acide, P1, for our Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell drivers. For our 488 Challenge drivers, it is Joachim Olander that is P1. So really hard luck for John Dillon. Then we can see his stricken car being towed to safety, and it means that John Dillon will not take part in this race, I suspect. So we stay with the Richard Mills safety car right now. There you can see drivers continuing to weave their cars from side to side. Say that temperature generation is really rather important. Give them some heat into those tyres before the race gets underway proper. The race has got underway right now. Lights are out on the safety car, so confirmation that that will be peeling in on the occasion of it peeling off into the pit lane. Now, interestingly, Manu Gosner is right alongside Henri Acide. And to me, it looks like they're lining up in side-by-side grid formation, Nico.
Yeah, we just went through the sporting regulations. It is a rare case, but as you say, it is exactly the usual start formation. Even if the safety car had already peeled off, it would be a side-by-side start. That hasn't happened, so everything is normal, just 5 minutes or so less on the clock.
Means it's altogether more critical for those drivers that want to make up places and positions during the course of the race. They've got less time to do it. It's a new duration for 2024. It is 30 minutes plus 1 lap, so they do get an additional lap. There you can see the safety car has peeled off into the pit lane. So Henri Acide, Manuela Gosner, they had a drag race into turn number 1 yesterday, and Manuela Gosner got a really, really good start. It looked like she'd got the better of Henri Acide going into turn number 1, but he maintained his momentum and did end up maintaining that P1 position. Let's see how they do today. All eyes on the lighting gantry. And the lights are out. Let's go racing then. This is Ferrari Challenge, Coppa Shell and 488 Challenge, live from the Paul Ricard circuit here in Le Castellet in the south of France, as Manuela Gosner once again matches Henri Acide for pace. However, Henri Acide has got the inside line. Christophe Herney trying to make moves early on, and you can see the 488 Challenge drivers as well, with Joachim Olander holding on to that P1 position, I think, as Henri Acide immediately tries to stretch his legs, and von Skeltermaier gets past the Christophe Herney car in the 177 machine, although I think he has to back in behind it right now as Willem van der Boom runs wide in avoidance. So Acide leading from Manuela Gosner. Then it is Thibaut Valent that is P3. All the cars going through the first sequence of turns. To the best of my knowledge, all pretty steadfast and okay.
Yeah, there were a few cars who had to take avoiding action, lots of run-off area there, so nothing untoward happening, and we have got a clean start, and Henri Acide couldn't have had it any better time of it. He already stretches his legs, and Manuela Gosner has to defend from Thibaut Valent, so even more of an opportunity for him to get up the road early on.
Very interesting is we were talking about Fabrizio Fontana in the 488 Challenge race. He has dropped down a couple of places. He's been usurped by Faisal Shahir and Maurizio Pittori right at the start. Now we'll try and wrestle his way back, of course. that Joachim Olander it is that's leading in the 488 Challenge race, but Manuel Gosner, as you quite rightly say, has got a rear view screen full of the Tibor Valent car, and then it's Ernst Kirchmeier, Christoph Herning and von Skeltermar ahead of Thomas Gosner, Motohiko Isasaki and Alexander Nussbaumer, another driver when you consider that he started right at the back of the pack of the Coppa Shell cars. He has moved up to P9, so great progress made by the driver of the 136 car.
Yes, 100%. There you can see the white car with the blue strip. That is effectively the leader of the second race here. That is Joachim Olander. Fabrizio Fontana, he has to finish ahead of Tommy Lindroth, and Tommy also had a terrible start. He's way down in P12 in class. So all good for Fabrizio Fontana when it comes to the championship, but he wants to win the race. There is no question about it.
Of course you do. If you're going to win the championship, you want to win it by taking the checkered flag as being the first car across the line in your particular category. However, we'll see, still a lot of racing to come. 23.5 minutes plus 1 lap still to come. Motohiko Isasaki is under a bit of pressure right now from Alexander Nussbaumer, Nico, and that is for P8 in the race. Now, I remind you that Alexander Nussbaumer having to start right from the back of the pack. He wasn't able to set a lap during qualifying. And this is the P3 car that was center screen, now the P4 car, and then the P5 as well from our drone shot then. A fantastic shot that is, as we see all the cars making their way around this wonderful circuit here at Circuit Paul Ricard. Thomas Gosner, there's Motohiko Isasaki, and you watch Alexander Nussbaumer really trying to take Motohiko Isasaki. Will he try and have a go coming into this chicane? I don't think he's quite close enough to be able to do it. Manu Gosner, and then it is Tibor Valent to P2 and P3. And there you can see, there is the Motohiko Isasaki car, the second of the green cars, with Alexander Nussbaumer chasing him down.
Absolutely, and now that Manu Gosner has been able to get a little bit of an edge over Tibor Valent, maybe she will be able to put her head down and try and chase down Henry Hassid, and not, at the very least, not allow that gap to become too big, because that's really what she needs to do if she wants to get on term for P1.
And you're right, Henry Hassid, once he gets his nose in front, he's able just to focus on what he needs to do. And there you can see he's built up that margin of 2.475 seconds already over Manu Gosner, who's P2. Here comes Alexander Nussbaumer then, trying to get a good exit. Chasing down the Motohiko Isasaki car. Willem van der Vorm, who is ahead of Pierluigi Alessandri. And then it is Michael Martin ahead of Ray Acosta. So Alexander Nussbaumer then tries to get a better exit out of the final turn on the start-finish straight. Let's see if he can put himself alongside the car of Motohiko Isasaki. He's done that. He's going to have the inside line here. He's going to be king of the late breakers. Nussbaumer going to be later on the brakes and goes through.
Absolutely well done. Motohiko Isasaki was our Shell Am champion last year, and he's really mixing it up with the Shell drivers, but in that instance, it's just Alexander Nussbaumer, who showed great pace yesterday as well. He is showing that his starting position absolutely was not representative of the speed he has.
No, and he was one of the drivers that we identified on the grid as one that is likely to make some overtaking moves fairly early on in the race, and that's precisely what he's done. And here we can see a replay of the start sequence then as the cars rounded the final turn in side-by-side grid formation. The lights went out and racing was underway then. And Henry Hassid got a better start today than he got yesterday, but again, Manuela Gosner was really quick out of the blocks here. But of course, she is on the outside line going into turn number 1 when she needed to have sufficient pace to get by Henry and perhaps be able to close the door on him. That was not going to happen.
No, but great respect to all the drivers, because it's an unusual situation when you do the extra formation lap and you're not quite sure. It's not something you train too much.
At the beginning, Fabrizio Fontana got right alongside Joachim Olander, to be fair, in the 488 challenges, but then had to yield. And then his desperate attempt to get by Joachim Olander actually made him very vulnerable for the cars that were following behind, and that's why he lost those positions at the start, Nico.
Yeah, he was stuck a little bit behind the Michael Martin car, and that meant that into the chicane some of the other cars from the other starting row were able to get by. So great respect to everybody, even though it's an unusual situation with the extra safety car. Start is not under investigation, everybody got a clean start, so very good. We can focus on what's ahead.
Yeah, they dealt with it impeccably, did they not? And we can see what the view was like from the back end of the Henry Hassid car. And this is Fabrizio Fontana in replay then, as he's trying to make his way up the order now and chase down Joachim Olander, who of course is running P1 with Maurizio Pittori P2. Maurizio Pittori was, but there, as you can see.
And that may have been, believe it or not, the first overtake of the season by Fabrizio Fontana, because he started from pole position every single time. So very unusual situation for him. See what you can do in qualifying.
Yes. Fastest laps come from this man, Henri Acide, who's leading the race. And, well, no surprise, fastest lap in the 488 challenges comes from Joachim Olander, who is leading the race for the 488 cars. I remind you, the 488 cars have a blue strip across the top of the windscreen. The Coppa 296 cars have the yellow strip that you can see adorning the Henri Acide car right now, as he leads this race by a margin of incredibly 3.598 already into the Castellet garage, so that they can see the progress being made by Henri Acide, which is pretty respectable. He has built up a huge margin already and looks completely unfazed by anybody else, of course. Now, here is Fabrizio Fontana. He's chasing down Faisal Shaier right now. So that's the Faisal Shaier, is the first of the cars that you can see here. Fabrizio Fontana, who, as Nico pointed out, and makes a very fair point, he hasn't had to do a lot of overtaking in the racing because he's generally always qualified P1, and therefore no one has come past him. So Stefano Gaius, his driver coach, you can see as we split the shot here, encouraging Fabrizio to do everything he can. But actually, you know what? Fabrizio is in such a good position in terms of the Drivers' Championship. It would be futile to make too many risks. What he needs to do is bank points, and to be honest, as we understand it, as long as he finishes ahead of Tommy Lindroth, we're pretty sure that the margin between Fabrizio Fontana and Tommy Lindroth would be sufficient for Fabrizio to win the championship. However, we need to do the mathematics, because of course the points that he will bank at the moment, certainly not the points that he would bank for a win. So Maurizio Pittori is P2, Faisal Shaier is P3. So at the moment, it seems almost unthinkable. If the race were to stop now, Nico, Fabrizio Fontana wouldn't even be on the podium.
Yeah, that is true, and I think that is the very least that Fabrizio wants to do. He doesn't want to take a championship off the podium, but we've got 17 minutes and change plus 1 lap remaining, and much that I have respect for Faisal Shaier and what he's done in qualifying over the last 2 days, it's very difficult to keep Fabrizio Fontana behind you for that much time. So it's all to play for in the 488, and Fabrizio Fontana in a very strong position.
I agree with that. Henri Acide also in a very strong position with 5.335 seconds of margin. Now this is Ernst Kirchmeier, who's trying to chase down Tibor Valin. Ernst Kirchmeier, of course, has been supremely successful in the Ferrari Challenge. He's not mounted a full campaign in Europe this year, which has been a shame, but nonetheless he's back. And he is chasing down Tibor Valin because Ernst would also like to be on the podium today. Would any driver not?
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. Alexander Nussbaumer, you can see he's closed up on Thomas Gostner, and that means he will start, and he'll potentially start attacking, and that brings von Skeltemer, who's just there. You can see the shark teeth fronted 296 challenge. That might bring all 3 of them together in one fight group, and wouldn't that be a juicy combination? Because Alexander Nussbaumer, he will look to move up the order as quickly as possible.
However, because of the extra formation lap for the Strickland John Dillon car, for which we're really sorry, we are already at just under 16 minutes remaining plus 1 lap, so the race has gone very quickly. For now, I have to say, Faisal Shaier is doing a very good job of defending from Fabrizio Fontana. You know, he's just keeping him mean and keen. Maurizio Pittori is also not able to escape away from Faisal Shaier and Fabrizio Fontana, all of which is playing into the hands of the likes of Joachim Olander and, to a degree, Maurizio Pittori, who are able just to concentrate on what they need to do. Whoa, a bit of a sideways moment there for Henri Acide, as he pushed very hard. The back end of the car looked a little bit loose. Let's run the telemetry on the Henri Acide car. Into second gear, accelerating right now up to 120 kilometers per hour before a little dab of the brakes. Into third gear, now fourth, beginning to build. No brakes whatsoever, just carries the speed through there, and now onto this very fast straight. Look at the speed building in this 296 6 challenge car. 275 kilometers, 280 kilometers per hour, very near before heavy braking into this chicane. Brilliant to be able to bring you this telemetry. A little bit of mid-chicane brake, and then back on the gas once again before the very long right-hander. So here is Omri Acid, who we ride on board with right now. This is Ferrari Challenge Coppa live from the circuit. Paul Ricard. There you can see just a dab of the brakes before entering this turn. Then again, back on the gas before heavier braking. Kissing the curb just a little bit. Let the car run wide to the outside because that sets up the trajectory to kiss the apex on the inside there. Setting the car up perfectly for the left-hander here. Carrying so much speed into that as much as you dare. It was brilliant to ride on board with Henry Acid and also to have the telemetry to gauge his inputs inside the car and what that was doing outside the car.
Absolutely, and you could see how tricky that final sector, how technical it is. Every turn, every apex has a different diameter, different speed, and you can't just put the car on the straight and then brake and turn in at some point. And was that an overtake?
Where's Motohiko Isozaki? Certainly under some pressure. He's got Luigi Alessandri right behind him. Ahead of him is Willem van der Vorm as Alexander Nussbaumer is continuing his forward trajectory. He's got Thomas Gosner in his target sights, but here comes Alessandro Pierluigi then. Or Pierluigi Alessandri, I should say. Getting a little bit of a draft off the back of the Motohiko Isozaki car. Is going to dive to the inside. He's not quite close enough to be able to do so. Motohiko Isozaki then last year's Coppa Shell Am champion. Elevated to the Coppa Shell Championship this year and is potentially one of the most enthusiastic Ferrari Challenge races you are ever likely to find. Absolutely loves his racing. Every aspect of this wonderful prancing horse brand, he loves it. And he gives us great entertainment on track as well. He's a great racing driver, is Motohiko Isozaki. For the moment though, his rearview screen is really rather full of the Pierluigi Alessandri car, who is just 2/10 behind him, Nico.
Yeah, indeed, and there is an attempt at an overtake, which didn't quite work. That's again in the 488 class. That's the 222 car of Roger Thornberg against Kun Wittelsbach, and
that is the car of Vinny, I believe, that has gone around.
Yeah.
But Gabrielli manages to get it pointing in the right direction once again for CDP Gurika competition, and he will continue his way.
Absolutely, and we could see on our timing screen that Pierluigi Alessandri has made it past Motohiko Isozaki, so he's made the overtake stick. And there is a chart of who has done what in the race thus far. Alexander Nussbaumer, +6.
Yeah, he's made great progress. Maurizio Pittori look up 4, and Sven Schomer up 4 places as well. But look at Quinn Fiedlersbach, then up 8 places. Absolutely brilliant to see. Making his Ferrari Challenge Racing debut this weekend. There is Tommy Lindroth. And Tommy is not where he would want to be, Nico. He is P12 in class for the 227 driver for Gome Motorsport and the Baron Racing team. Tommy celebrating his birthday just yesterday, and he didn't get the perfect start, but quite clearly that was not where he would like to be. Fabrizio Fontana has still not been able to find a way past Faisal Shayer, and I tend to agree with you, Nico, that if nothing else, he would want to be on the podium. There you can see the information that is available to Stefano Guy on the right-hand side of his screen. Stefano Guy is his driver coach and a successful Ferrari Challenge driver in his own right. But Faisal Shayer now has got much closer to Maurizio Pittori. So all of a sudden, this becomes a 3-way fight for P2, Nico. Now, for Faisal, the more he attacks Maurizio Pittori, the more he becomes vulnerable to a potential attack to come from Fabrizio Fontana. Let's once again take a look at the data and the input that from the onboard shot that his driver coach is able to look at. And give us, while we take a coffee and await the drivers to come into this shot. There is our race leader, Joachim Olander. Before we get to Maurizio Pittori, Faisal Shayer and Fabrizio Fontana. Fabrizio now taking a look around the outside of Faisal Shayer because Faisal is slower now, and the reason he's slower is because he's trying to attack Maurizio Pittori and trying to just put the pressure on Maurizio Pittori for a mistake In the meantime, this is our leader in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell. It is, of course, Henri Acide, who has got 4.296 seconds to the good in P1 ahead of Manuel Agostner and Thibaut Valent. They are the top three in Coppa Shell. Meantime, a big battle going on in the 488 challenge for P2, 3 and 4. A three-way fight going on for that as Henri Acide puts another lap in the book with merely 9.25 minutes plus 1 lap remaining in this race.
Yeah, we can see that Faisal Shaya and Fabrizio Fontana have gone past Maurizio Pittori, and that means it's all changed in the 488 class.
So there, let's run the telemetry, forgive me, Nico, on the Manuela Agostner car. I mean, Manuela's doing everything she can to try and keep on terms with Henri Acide, but as I said at the beginning, you know, once Henri has got his head in front and his nose in front, you know, he's difficult to overtake. He's difficult to keep with as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Manuela is such an experienced, young but experienced driver. She knows, together with her team, that if the other driver is clearly quicker on a given day, just doing everything to try and keep up with him, you might suffer at the end and get overtaken by other drivers. So it's better to just bank P2, and it's a long championship, it's a long season, so you don't win or lose it today. Well, you don't win it today, but you have a chance of really, really getting behind the 8 ball if you know, just try too much when it's just not there.
You're absolutely right, and you know, she has the benefit, if you like, of a very, very respected team behind her, led by Giorgio Sonagiotto, who himself has been a very successful racing driver, and therefore his advice is heeded by Manu Agostner. And you're right, Nico, you would, you know, in terms of trying to keep on terms with Henri Acide, I'm convinced that Manuela could do that. She would take so much out of the tyres and so much out of the car, and you know, would scrub the Pirellis like never before. This is Pierluigi Alessandri then on Motohiko Sasaki. Good avoidance, to be fair, from Motohiko Sasaki. He could see that a collision was on there, and he dived out of that and allowed Pierluigi Alessandri to go through.
Yeah, we've seen some great overtakes coming into that chicane already yesterday, and some worked, some didn't, and this one by Alessandri definitely worked. So he and Isozaki traded places. It's P10, and you can also see that Ernst Kirchmeier is dropping down the order on our timing screen, and he's coming to the pits. So whatever that was, or whatever that means, is maybe he's had some kind of issue. Certainly he has dropped down the order, which obviously elevates all the other drivers who rode behind him.
Well done, Nico, for picking that up, and well done also for picking up the big battle that was going on in the 488 Challenge, where Faisal Shaya and Fabrizio Fontana had both been able to get past Maurizio Pittori. Rather hoped we might have a replay of that, but there we can continue to watch Manuel Agostner, who's running in P2, and then Thibaut Valent running in P3. So that's the way the cars look in Coppa Shell, and quite a big battle going on in the 488s. And Ernst Kirchmeier, as you say, again, something we've identified from the timing screen, is dropping down the order and into the pit lane. So that's a great shame to returning Ernst Kirchmeier, former champion, of course, in the Ferrari Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Now he doesn't have any championship aspirations, but obviously he wants to finish as high up the order and to have his guest appearance spoiled by having to come into the pit lane. A big pity. But okay, that is all part of racing, and part of racing is that Henri Acide is now not pushing anymore too much. He's just managing the gap, which means Manuel Agostner is coming a little bit closer, but we're still talking 4 seconds. So barring a safety car, that lead sounds like it's very, very safe. Thibaut Valent, he is much more likely to get on terms with Manu Agostner, but getting close is one thing, if he can do it. But Manu Agostner is not someone you just overtake, as actually Henri Acide can really tell you about.
Oh, and she's done a great job in the past when the roles have been reversed. You're absolutely right, and good to point that out. So the top three in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell: Henri Acide, Manuel Agostner, Thibaut Valent, and the Thibaut Valent car you can see there exiting their final turn. For our 488 Challenge race, it is Joachim Olander from Faisal Shaya and Fabrizio Fontana. And the gap between Fontana and Shaya seesawing between 2, 3 and 4 tenths at the moment, as von Skeltermar makes a go here on Christoph Herney. Not quite close enough to be able to get past the very, very experienced driver of the 162 car. But von Skeltermaar certainly having a go. Christoph Herney P4 now. Of course, the more these two fight, what it will do is just back them up into the clutches, potentially, of Thomas Gostner. And the big beneficiary could effectively be Alexander Nussbaumer, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that is always something on the radar is track limits. Fortunately, thus far, this hasn't been a big topic in the race. And with 4 minutes and 10 seconds or so remaining, it figures like it will not jeopardize any of the top positions, at least. So we can just focus on what's happening on the track. And von Skeltermaar is trying. He's trying to set himself up for a move potentially into the chicane. I don't think he's anywhere close enough on this attempt. But we've seen before, sometimes you just need to rehearse something a few times before you can make it come good.
Fonzie's partner, Cyril, is watching on in the garages, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. And Alexander Nussbaumer at the same time is lining up a potential overtake on Thomas Gostner as well. So maybe 2 in 1 here. So Christoph Herney defending his P4 from von Skeltermaar, and Thomas Gostner defending his P6 from Alexander Nussbaumer. Again, the telemetry we can bring you, you can see when the figures are green, that means accelerating. When the figures are red, that means braking. Von Skeltermaar looking at the inside. Christoph Herney having to really, really defend here. Thomas Gostner carrying a lot of speed into that turn. However, he is able to get the car rotated and holds on to that P6 position at the moment, but there is no doubt about it. And von Skeltermaar maybe having to just dive out of a move there because he was so close to the Christoph Herney car to avoid any contact between the two on the final sequence of turns. So is Fons closer now? For sure, Nico. He's going to try and get the draft off the back of the Christoph Herney car. This is for P4. Fons, I think, will try and dive to the inside right now. But Christoph Herney gets the move covered off. Good defending from Herney. Good attacking from von Skeltermaar. But it's another lap where he has not been able to do that. And Nico, truthfully, we've only got 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap to do. And here comes Alexander Nussbaumer on Thomas Gostner.
Yeah, absolutely, and there was almost an opportunity, but that's
Wow.
a very, very difficult spot to overtake, because if you try to go on the inside, you're automatically on the outside on the other side. But I think if von Skeltermaar can stay in the slipstream through this turn and just have a little bit more exit speed, and I think he's got the better line out of that turn to have a little bit more momentum, he does have a chance. And again, it's both of those battles that might come to a head into the chicane. We will be watching it. This is riveting action.
So there is Skeltermaar then. Is he close enough to Herney? Alexander Nussbaumer. You could just see the red car as he dives to the inside, but actually he shortcutted the entry to the chicane. There was no way of overtaking there, and if he had have overtaken there, he'd have had to give the position back because it would have been deemed that he gained an advantage. So you can see him furiously flashing his lights. That's the final red car in this mix. And Thomas Gostner defending his P6 position from Alexander Nussbaumer. Here's von Skeltermaar again trying to worry the Christoph Herney car. And, well, I mean, these four have delivered some fantastic racing. I have to say, I'm most impressed by the defending from Christoph Herney and the defending from Thomas Gostner. Von Skeltermaar appears to be slowing Nico a little bit. Whether he just wrong-footed through one of the turns as he picks it back up again now. And will resume his attack potentially on Christoph Herney. Of course, when you're running in the dirty air immediately behind a car, to do that lap after lap after lap, it's a big ask.
Absolutely, but we're only 1 lap, or the remainder of this lap, plus 1 more away from the checkered flag. At the lead groups, it's the same as we were. Henry Hassid with a large lead over Manuela Gostner, Joachim Oland an even bigger lead, and Faisal Shaya has held off Fabrizio Fontana until now for P2 in class, so very respectable from all of those competitors. But this group looks like the most likely place for an overtake to happen.
So here is Faisal Shaya then, who is running P2 in the 488 challenge. And it is Fabrizio Fontana that is chasing down. So this, of course, is as Fabrizio Fontana loses the back end of the car. Oh, you can see the anxiety on his driver coach, Stefano Guy.
Yeah, because I mean, Fabrizio Fontana, as you already said before, he is firmly on course for a championship. The only thing he can't do is throw the car away, because that would, I mean, he would still very, very likely be the champion come the end of the season, but that would change whether he can do it today. There you could just see Henry Hassid is coming up on the 488 Challenge Evo driver, so a little bit of traffic.
But credit to all of them, Nico. They could see that Henry is coming through, and his progress has been unhindered, and he's able to maintain that 7 seconds of advantage he has over Manuel Agostina and Tibor Valent. It remains Christoph Ernie ahead of von Skeltermayer and Thomas Gostner and Alexander Nussbaumer. They remain in the same positions for the moment. I just wonder when they get, and if they get onto the traffic as well. I don't think they're probably going to do it, because we've got the remainder of this lap plus one more to do.
Exactly, and Henry Hassid is now approaching the timing line. That means when he crosses the timing line, he's only going to be one more lap. So he also won't come up on the battle between Cheyer and Fontana. So there is not going to be any interference in that regard. As you can see, there is the Tommy Lindroth car, there is the Alexei Komarov car, and both of them fair driving, stay on the side and keep their battle to themselves.
Here's Manu Gostner and also Tibor Valent, who also have got to navigate their way through through the traffic as we've reached the final lap of this Coppa Shell and 488 race. There is Henry Hassid. It's been another masterclass from the driver of the number 167 car, that's for sure, engineered by Castellet Racing. And Henry Hassid then, as the excitement lights up, as I can see from our timing screen that it's now von Skeltermayer P4, Christoph Herney P5, then Thomas Gostner and Alexander Nussbaumer.
Yeah, so Skeltermayer has made the move, just as we were looking at Henry Hassid, as he is navigating the 488 Challenge Evo traffic, and he's only got a few more turns to do as he comes out onto the final part of the Mistral straight. He's only the final sector to do, and then he will have a perfect event wrapped up, potentially 2 pole positions, 2 fastest laps, 2 race win. It is his home ground, and you can tell.
Absolutely, and as I said just a few moments ago, it's been something of a masterclass from Henry Hassid. And he's had the pace in the car, he's had the confidence in the car, he's had the ability to pedal this car and pedal it to aplomb around this Paul Ricard circuit. And he will head towards the checkered flag then, and it will be victorious for Henry Hassid then. He's got just a couple of turns to do. A left-hander, then a right-hander, and then he will see the checkered flag unfurled about him as he will head towards. And he's already got his hand out of the window, such as his delight at a very, very dominant performance from Henry Hassid then, who takes the win for Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell. You can see the back marking 488 cars before we see Manuel Agostina and Tibor Valent taking P2 and P3. Then it's von Skeltermayer, Christoph Herney, Thomas Gostner and Alexander Nussbaumer. Joachim Olander is going to take victory for our 488 cars. Fabrizio Fontana, of course, by finishing P3, he does find himself on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely, that is the case. I mean, the 488s are still a few meters away from the finish line, because such is the difference between the 296 and the 488s that Joachim Olander was 44 seconds behind Motohiko Izazaki, the last of the Shell drivers. So it's a few more seconds before we will see the 488s finish their race, and barring any late last-minute move, it's gonna be Izazaki as the last of the Shell, and then it's Olander who will take the finish line in but a few moments. Fontana, he is running in P3, but he will be crowned champion in the 488 Challenge class.
It's been a mature drive from Fabrizio Fontana, as Joachim Olander wins the race and takes the checkered flag. He was the winner of the race. Faisal Cheyer takes P2, but Fabrizio Fontana taking P3 wins the 488 Challenge Championship. Stefano Guy virtually vaults the entire catch fence to celebrate. Our Coppa Shell race winner, though, is Henry Hassid. And well done to him. And well done to Joachim Olander. Let's take nothing away from the fact that Joachim Olander was the 488 Challenge race winner.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Fabrizio Fontana, of course, sealed the championship. What a race! That was pretty much full of drama. Sadly, some of it we didn't get. There's so much going on. It's difficult to be across everything. But another masterclass from Henri Acide. And a very mature drive from our new 488 champion, Fabrizio Fontana. Well done to him. I spoke to him at lunchtime, and he was very complimentary about you. And the nice comments you have for him. He said a little bit about me as well. I mean, he has been a fantastic ambassador, hasn't he, in the 488. And you know, today the maturity of the driver is such that he wasn't able to put it on pole position. And, in his quest to get to P1, he didn't manage to achieve it. In actual fact, it caught him out, didn't it? And he lost some places, but, very sensible driving. Really impressive, really impressive. And well done to Henri Acide. No question about it. What a drive from that man.
Yeah, I think if it were a Le Castellet challenge all year, I think Henri Acide would be almost unbeatable. But it's different circuits and different backgrounds, and next time is might all be different. So even more sweet for Henri Acide to have defended home turf effectively and made it a perfect weekend from his point of view.
Very much so. And as he said when we were speaking to him over the course of the weekend earlier, that whenever he has raced here at this circuit, he's always been a race winner, and it was very important for him to maintain that kind of his own personal record of success at his circuit. And you can kind of understand that being something of a motivation for him as well. But, in fairness, great driving from him. And I have to say, Nico, as Manu Gosner is congratulated there, it's also nice to see is the fact that no one, perhaps with the exception of Roger Turnbaum, I think it was, no one was really impacted too much by track limits, which was the case yesterday.
Yes, absolutely, especially on a track like Le Castellet, where with a huge run of areas, you're almost expecting some drivers to take a few liberties, but no. And here are the results again.
Henri Acide then by 7.5 seconds takes the win ahead of Manuel Gosner, and Tibor Valint was P3. Then it was von Skeltermar and Christoph Ernie and Thomas Gosner. Alexander Nussbaumer from the very back of the pack made it up to P7 ahead of Willem van der Vorm and Pierluigi Alessandri. Ray Acosta then finished in P10 for our Coppa Shell drivers ahead of Mikael Martin and Motohiko Isasaki. For our 488 Challenge drivers, it was Joachim Olander victorious in the race, Faisal Shaya taking P2 and Fabrizio Fontana taking P3. That, of course, is sufficient for him to become champion. And there you can see the rest of the order there of our 488 Challenge drivers. Real shame for John Dillon, who on his formation lap unfortunately was not able to continue, and that's why we saw an extra formation lap and effectively safety car restart.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is our champion, 488 champion for the 2024 season, our first champion of the season, I think, across all the regions and categories. Fabrizio
Yes, I think
Fontana.
you're right. Well done, Fabrizio. We're going to be catching up with Henri Acide, of course, our race winner in Coppa Shell, in just a moment. But you can understand us focusing a little bit on Fabrizio Fontana, who is the champion. But Henri Acide, another dominant performance. Let's hear from him now.
Henri, congratulations, double pole position and double victory here at your home circuit. How do you feel to be here again today?
Yes, it's an amazing weekend. Double win, double position, the pole position, and double best lap. I think it's not possible to do a perfect weekend like this, and I have to earn again the La Marseillaise in a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done, Henri. There's Joachim Olander then, our 488 Challenge race winner. And driving the 226 car. It's really good to see Joachim Olander back in racing again, because we've seen some fantastic performances from Joachim Olander, and we're going to hear from him now.
Wow, Joachim, congratulations for this important result for you, the first win in this season. How do you feel to be here? And can you tell us more about your race of today?
Yeah, it was good today. I was very unlucky yesterday. I was quality 2 yesterday, had a good start, but then we had some mismatch in first turn, or it's the 5th turn, and I had to stop. It's actually the first time I've been in the car since Le Mans last year. So it's good to have this 4 days, very good for me to come back and have the little bit tempo and so on. I had a good race. First 2 laps, my back tires was very slippery, so I didn't want to push too much. And I cleaned them up and then I could push. And the last thing, I had some pressure problems, 4 or 5 last laps of the back tires, and I had some alarm. So I backed off a little bit last laps, but otherwise, I mean, it's when you by yourself, then you can make your tempo yourself. So it makes it much easier than you have someone pressure from the background. So thank you, and this, I mean, this weekend with Ferrari, everything, for the card. What can I say? And have a win.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well done to Joachim Olander. Big thumbs up. So as the race got underway then for Coppa Shell and 488, Henri Acide and Manuel Agostina together heading towards turn number 1. You can see that Joachim Olander in the 488s was very determined as well. And Henri Acide made that P1 position from qualifying count going into the first sequence of turns. There's lots of overtaking going on behind though, including Fons Skeltermar and Christoph Ernie having a real go. Willem van der Vorm was rather squeezed into the runoff area, but all the drivers through all the first sequence of turns without any problems whatsoever, and then the chases were on. Alexander Nussbaum was starting right at the back of the Coppa Shell pack, therefore he'd got to do some overtaking and did that by getting past various drivers, including Motohiko Isasaki, whilst Henri Acide continued to press on. Pierluigi Alessandri with a bold move on Motohiko Isasaki, but he made it count and he moved up a further place as well. There was plenty of action in the 488 Challenge racing as well, with Faisal Shaier looking very, very lively and Fabrizio Fontana running in that P3 position. Manuel Agostina had at times Tibor Valint for company, however, she coped with it all really rather well, particularly when getting past some of the back-marking 488 Challenge drivers, some of whom didn't make it terribly easy for Manuel Agostina, but it was a great victory for Henri Acide. And it was a great victory in Coppa Shells for Henri Acide. For the 488 Challenge drivers, it was a great victory for Joachim Olander. And of course, Fabrizio Fontana, by finishing P3, became the 488 Challenge champion for 2024. Oh, the drivers will be heading off up to the podium. They will be given their trophies, and as I say, with P3 coming for Fabrizio Fontana, that is enough for him to become champion.
Fabrizio Fontana.
So with the backdrop of the Paul Ricard circuit, we await the podium then. And the race statistics: top speed in Coppa Shell from Pierluigi Alessandri, 266 kilometers per hour. Faisal Shaier, 249.4. Best progress made by Alexander Nussbaumer for the Coppa Shell drivers, 7 places gained. And Quinn Vidlisbach in the 488 Challenge with 9. So we'll be heading up to the podium next. And Michele Mambelli will be bringing the drivers out onto the podium for their celebrations and for the awards of their trophies. P3 for Tibor Valint, P2 for Manu Gosner. And on the top step of the podium, he sprints to it right now. Here comes Henri Acide. National anthem time. So here come the trophy presentation time. Bear in mind, of course, Castellet Racing will be represented for the Coppa Teams trophy as well. And sure enough, Castellet Racing on the podium as well. And delighted that Lilu Vadu, Ferrari factory driver, is here to make the trophy presentations. First of all, to the Hungarian driver Tibor Valint. He takes P3. It's P2 for Manu Gosner. Fantastic to see Lilu here over the course of the weekend. And here comes Henri Acid, who receives his P1 trophy. And of course, Coppa Team trophy will be awarded to Castellet Racing. I did see earlier on in the paddock, Ronnie Castellet, team principal. All drivers and trophy presenters on the podium then. Oh, and Henri is very, very quick on the champagne race. Poor Manu. Well, she had to defend her position on the podium from the champagne attack from Henri Acid. Great to see. Well done to the Ferrari Budapest Rosso Corsa driver Tibor Valint. He takes P3. For Nico Rapato Corsa Ram, it's Manuel Gosner that takes P2. And quick on track, quick on the podium as well. For Castellet Racing, Henri Acid, race winner. In the Drivers' Championship, Henri Acid on 135 points, Manu Gosner on 91. Now moving up one place is Tibor Valint. John Dillon, regrettably, down to P4 with a non-start effectively. So that's the way the championship looks in terms of Coppa Shell Drivers' Championship. Say Henri Acid looking in a good position going into the next round, which of course will be on the really rather different Nürburgring circuit. See how he will fare there in the Eifel region of Germany. Of course, we have another podium to come, and that is for our 488 Challenge drivers. And once again, Michele Mambelli will be bringing the drivers out onto the podium to celebrate their successes in the race. And taking P3, it will be Fabrizio Fontana, who, of course, has, by dint of taking P3, become the champion. Very unusual not to see him on step one of the podium, but there we have it. P2, Faisal Shayer. It was a good drive from Faisal.
Absolutely. Remember, it's his maiden event here, and he really, really held up under the pressure throughout the race.
And Joachim Olander on the top step of the podium. Well done, Joachim. Here comes the national anthem. Right. Of course, the Formula Racing team will be represented up there on the podium as Tor is there to receive that. The reason I'm laughing is tall Tor, I should say, because Joachim is no shorty. Tor is even taller. I wonder how many more tours I can get into this. As the P2 trophy is presented to Faisal, P3 trophy has already been presented to Fabrizio Fontana. Get on the script, Dave. And the race winner is Joachim Olander, Nico.
Absolutely. Fabrizio Fontana will actually have to wait quite some time before he receives his championship trophy. Almost 3 months before we're at the World Finals, but he's got that coming for sure.
There is Lucio Vigani then from Pirelli to present the Pirelli trophy to Joachim Olander as well. A brilliant return to racing for Joachim Olander, Nico.
Absolutely. Absolutely well done. And he said it, you hadn't raced in the car since Le Mans last year, so that's quite a long time. And he didn't miss a step.
Obviously used some lubricant, hasn't he? Because he's not rusty at all. He's done really well in terms of his racecraft. Well done, Joachim. And that is the car that took him to top step of the podium. And in the Trofeo Pirelli 488 Evo Drivers' Championship, there you can see Fabrizio Fontana on 163 points, 79 advantage over Tommy Lindroth. That means it was done and dusted for the 488 Drivers' Championship. Well done to Fabrizio Fontana. And look at this. Joachim Olander has moved up 10 places in the Drivers' Championship because of his weekend this weekend. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So from our Coppa Shell drivers and 488 Challenge drivers, thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye for now.